Hey there, YouTubers, Pythonistas. So, regardless of the antics, like whether you want to have, fun stuff, like Coding Train was one of my mentors, like the guy who does the Coding Train teaching and stuff. He's kind of wild and crazy guy, right? Kind of a clown in a good way. I don't think it's wrong to try to be entertaining. So, you'll have your own technique as a teacher. And you can discount my technique in a lot of ways as not what you would do, and that's totally cool. But stripping away what's idiosyncratic about my approach, I think this making YouTubes about a Jupyter notebook that you are creating and embedding those very YouTubes inside the Jupyter notebook, that would be the workflow I would recommend, not just for you, the teacher, but also for your students. Like you're teaching them the same workflow. And then homework and projects, things that you want them to do, things they decide to do, they will have this tool then to do that with. Now, it's not like all Jupyter notebooks. It's not like that's the only technology we need to care about, but it's a good one. So if you watch the last two videos, I gradually build up this Jupyter notebook. I have, first of all, a dog class and talk about, how that class creation is built on the basics of a dictionary, which is the same as in JavaScript in a lot of ways. And then after building a dog class, I go on and build a polyhedron class with subclasses. It's very simple. And I do introduce the whole number volumes because I want to go to the octet truss of octahedrons and tetrahedrons filling space, like in Escher's flatworms, that famous Escher print. You might want to check that out. This is the canonical volumes is what I'm talking about, where the rhombic dodecahedron is the space filler inside which you have the CCP balls. That's not CCCP. I have another video, you might be able to find it, where I also see how the Philippines, Cultural Center of the Philippines pops up when I search on CCP and CCCP and so forth. I was talking about how this could be a point of convergence for people from different walks of life, like where we try to converge, say, with Islam is in the geometry. When I say we, I was at the Parliament of World Religions, so I'll say we in the sense of convergent religions that don't mind working together as opposed to fighting. And I think that's a tendency all religions have. They will work together, but then there are certain, like, there's a centrifugal force that wants to keep them, at odds and fighting. And then there's sort of a core group that can see, there's a lot of geometry here that could be transcending, any particular religious tradition. I guess I'm talking about sacred geometry in a way, which is not something new, not something I've invented, but something that could get a boost out of the whole number volumes hierarchy. And I'm always looking in that direction towards long-running cultural motifs that are not just the political jibber-jabber that you get on TV about political parties and partisan politics and all the fights they're having. I don't know if general systems theory is capitalist or socialist. I really don't have a clue at the moment. Cybernetics, does it have a political party? I think it's just common sense, though, to look at the global energy grid, this new story about, what was it, this solar farm in Australia is going to be powering Singapore somehow. I haven't really looked into that, but it came through my Genie connection. That's the Global Energy Network International, one of the legacy groups from the World Game era. Not that World Game ever ended, because conceptually World Game is just what we're playing right now. All of us, as long as we're involved in the world somehow. Anyway, if you're a teacher and looking for ways to get your students interested, I would think, they're interested in the biosphere, obviously. You can call it the climate if you want. You can talk about climate change. I prefer the term biosphere because clearly that's changing, just the creation of cities. For the better, for the worse, it doesn't matter. It's changing. And biosphere is obviously changing, and whether you think it's changing for the better or not, it's also anthropogenic, if you want to put that fancy word in there. Like, look at the face of the earth. It's totally transformed by humanity. And we don't have to say, oh, therefore humanity is bad or America is bad or something. It's just, let's start out by agreeing that humans have the potential and have already transformed the planet. It's totally different now. I wouldn't think any controversy there. But then as soon as you confine your thinking to, quote, the climate, then it all becomes about CO2 and global warming, and we're not talking about the biosphere anymore. So that seems a dumbing down. I would prefer to just talk about the biosphere and its problems and where does the energy come from, how much energy do we have, and what can we use it for. And if it's to take care of people, people argue about should that be by the government or not, by systems, okay? By systems, whether they're government or not. Corporations are like governments. They have governance. They're global. So it's all about semantics, isn't it? Everything. There's semantics and there's nothing. I used to say that. Still do. Sounds clever, doesn't it? Anyway, teachers, the whole number volumes and how I incorporate them into teaching object-oriented programming. Tell me what you think. Isn't this a useful and viable way to go forward? You don't have to give up any of your other teachings about polyhedrons. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing mathematically incorrect about our standard paradigm and how we usually do things with unit cubes, but nor is there anything wrong with doing it this way. And I think having some kind of fork in the road, some kind of alternative in the mathematical world is very valuable because we're not that used to having something so simple and easy and accessible in math play the role of a different paradigm or a fork in the road. It's like we don't have to get into, where you need 10, 20 years of understanding of math in order to see this alternative. You can get there early. It's very accessible. And I think that's something to celebrate, not something to be afraid of. So what do you think? You want to tell me? I'm happy to look at your YouTubes. Let me know. Talk to you soon.